via the office of the minister, things like this will emerge, not knowing the report and all of that. So I think we need to do that. I'll give you minister and then the deputy minister.
There was another issue that was raised by the honorable member on the case of misconduct on the acting CEO. There is such a case. The verdict or the outcome of that investigation comes from the Public Service Commission, not the department. All that the department had to do was implement on the directive of the Public Service Commission. So a disciplinary inquiry, a disciplinary process based on the outcome of the investigation done by the Public Service Commission was done as per the directive of the Public Service Commission. But when he was appointed, that process had not begun. So it's not as if we appointed someone that had a cloud hanging over their heads with a tangible report in front of us at that time, but we had to begin the process, and that's what we did. Although he has taken the matter up for review, which is the outcome of the Public Service Commission and not the department's outcome.
Deputy Minister.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I thought that you're going to give the members an opportunity to ask questions, all of them, and then we respond. However, Honorable Van Dijk, on the issue of the staff victimization, we are in possession of a letter from staff member written by the chairperson of the board, asking if this staff or the staff to tell her why you should not be taken to ADC. I don't know how chairpersons of the boards interfere with the responsibilities of the executive. But this letter, for me, it was a shocker and an indication of the amount of victimization and abuse towards the staff members by the chairperson of the board. So issues of MDDA are at that particular extent in terms of victimization. I am aware of that victimization. And the petition from the staff, we are in possession of that petition from the staff members of the MDDA. Thank you.
Very much. I chose to direct the meeting in this fashion. I'll now give to you members. Honorable Kalako.
Chair, I don't think I'll get into the performance on all other problems which we know of MDDA. I think my concern,
Can you close that door?
which I think is a concern of the committee, it's the situation, working relationship within MDDA itself. Because here, colleagues, I find myself in a problem. We have just, Parliament have just passed and adopted and appointed people to the board. And if you look into this situation, it means they will join the 3 people who have been there with all these problems, who are continuing to pursue. In fact, until this weekend, there have been war in that MDDA, nationally, on national newspapers, and even in the radio when you listen to news, of letters going up and down and press statements. So that situation definitely is going to affect the new 3 members, including those ones seconded by the shareholder and the other one from the president. And in a situation like that, definitely, especially these ones which are new. I don't know what you'll do, Minister, in your induction with that particular board. They will be caught up in this problem. That's my worry now, of all the situation which is happening there. And this shows why MDDA have been regressing for the past, financial years. Because and on serious issues especially, because it's not only around governance issues, but more importantly, on irregularities around contracts, around staffing, around projects. In fact, our oversight showed us exactly what is the state of MDDA. Because some of the projects and some of, in fact, people who have been awarded monies there, who have to hunt them ourselves. MDDA couldn't provide them. I'm sure this is what they do. That's why the Auditor General's office finds it difficult to find some of the information around some projects there. So I think this is what, Chair, I agree with what you have said, that this is the issue which we'll have to deliberate around and see what to do since we have, because these three people, their terms ends next year, January, February, the other one in June. So we'll have to see what to do. And I think there are two things which we might do there. If we don't go for dissolution, which I don't think we'll go for that, that is out. We have put a process as this parliament. We have added people. We should have done that before this. But I think there must be in that either a forensic investigation taking place in that agency, so that we can be able to deal with these problems. Also to deal with human resources issues, Minister. Because if you have a situation, it's not your problem in any case. Your chairperson it's not a lie, she has been intimidated and threatening the staff there. We heard it when we were there. And even when we came back, some of them still wrote to us, crying and complaining. And they are young women, young single women who are made to come and stay in Cape Town for days, even weekends, away from their small children. Irrespective of even when they are actually saying, no, please, I can't leave my family and leave my child for all these days. Others decide to resign because of those issues. So our problem, ministers, how are you I see what you are putting into place to try to remedy the situation there. Even the arrogance, to me, is an arrogance of the chairperson, minister. You second a person there to act as a CEO, to try to calm the situation and try to put things into order, without even having a courtesy of making even a call to you or writing to you and say, hey, I have these problems with this acting person. They just lock him out. I've seen the attitude of those three. They were here. The other one was yet even came for interviews in the SABC board. You could see the attitude. And I don't think also we'll work with those people correctly. I must be honest with you, Chair, and Minister. Those three, their attitude, they've got the attitude now towards us in Parliament. That's what they have now. So I don't think it's going to be possible. What Chair, I think, will have to do, coming back, it's good the minister have come. That is why we said, Minister, you know, that report, even you are saying yourself, they came as a board to present a report, to make a presentation to us, which you don't know. And what happened? They thought they were doing something which was supposed to be done by executive. And what happened? They fight with the CEO. So that's the dilemma we have. To turn things around in MDDA, you'll have to deal with the board. The problem there is these 3 board members. It's not your staff. Those things of procurement of which they get into, that problem is coming from the board. So that is why, Chair, I think maybe when we meet, we'll have to talk around the issues of doing thorough investigation there in that entity.
Okay, Honorable Kongbel.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think it would have been ideal, because I'm not, in law, when things are debated, they say, what is the question? In the last meeting, if I remember, we had anticipated either 1 or 2 issues. Probably the minister has articulated our expectations because we wanted to know from the minister what's going on. Probably this presentation is seeking to say, I'm still dealing with other issues, but I can share with you in the interim the following, which is in this slide. Up front, so that I don't miss this, I think what Honorable Kalako is saying, probably it came from you, Chair. I just want to say, having listened to a series of what appear to be a set of irregular things, a committee of this nature cannot justify its failure to do something about that. Because these things are put before the committee, and the committee cannot go under the sun and say it did not hear these issues. What I want to run away from, I don't want to deal with gossip. This is a parliamentary committee. It must deal with established facts. And there are various processes towards established facts. Forensic investigation is one of them. But even some kind of inquiry by the committee, not necessarily with an intention to, I agree with the whip, not necessarily with the intention to dissolve anything. But the results of that inquiry can actually advise what honestly is supposed to be done. Because a number of these things, Chair, have been coming before the committee. And I think the pressure the committee now is in. At what point decisively the committee plays its oversight role to establish facts around all these issues, so that on the basis of those facts, the oversight way forward is established by the committee. I'm saying forensic on its own is not enough, because forensic is meant for particular types of investigations. There are things it cannot do. So, but I think my anxieties are laid by yourself and the whip that we sooner or later, urgently, as a committee, having received this, we need to deliberate and find a way forward. I think some of the issues that I said here are very serious. And no self-respecting committee would actually turn its blind eye. But there are a few remarks I wanted to make, because I'm sure the intent is not to have a long meeting today. There's a discrepancy of issues. Honorable Van Dijk, to me, if my memory serves me well, is correct. The report that was given in the last meeting is of high performance. Is of high performance. This 33% is the opposite of the problem that one who failed to come with that report. I wish one would have come with that report, because I remember it had slides. The performance was ibiphezulu. Now the minister is telling us that it's 33%. So there are those discrepancies. And again, if the report that we got last week, that last time was here, there are things that the minister says, which, trying to remember on the appointment processes, that there would be a discrepancy between what she says and what that report was saying. Because the reason the committee was appalled was that in that process, the effects, which I cannot pick them in hard instances now, that were demonstrating that the board had moved to take decisions which a non-cooperating board is not supposed to take. And by the problem now, that report, we are not having it here, but I know all members should be having them in their files.
Except that we rejected that report, so we don't have it.
So we can't deal
It's
with
not,
it.
it's not our report.
Thanks for assisting me, Chair, but it's something, if we deal with the problems, it's facts that cannot be ignored in dealing with. I mean, procedurally, it's rejected, but if you deal with investigation, there are facts that are critical to determine the truth of a number of things. However, so the other issue I wanted to come to is, I think, Chair, the ministry in its totality, the whip was providing leadership in a more soft and very caring approach, but being honest about the issues. But I want to take it further and say, here, whether it's the previous, I don't know when did the reshuffle take place. I can't remember the month now. March, yes. So it means the first quarter took place under this ministry. That's the point I want to make. Both what the minister and the deputy minister read says both of them have got no justification at their level for this non-performance. If you look at the sections they have read. Because that section they read for us says, if you are in crisis of this nature, there is a proviso of what must be done. So the state of the board cannot be a full excuse for this for this non-performance. That's the point I want to make. If the section they have actually presented to us is anything to go by, all what it does, it says there was a dereliction of some kind, which will be shown when we look at issues deeper by the ultimate authorities of the institution. When I'm saying ultimate, I'm not just referring to the board now. Yeah, because that act enjoins them that if this situation occurs, the work of the board should proceed. And this is how you are expected to ensure it proceeds. Now, the other point is, I'm curious to the minister to share this with us. The presentation says MDDA is not required to have a shareholder compact. I'm doubting if the law speaks like that. One would have to refer to it, because that's a negative reference. I cannot imagine, because immediately an act positively articulates that, it would border on saying that there is no need for a performance relationship between them. Forget the name. Agreement and compact is just the semantics. The key principle when we talk about the shareholders compact is that there must be a performance agreement. Now, I cannot imagine a law saying it is not required. The law might be silent on it for whatever reason, but I cannot imagine it saying it's not required. Because immediately the law takes a positive stance that says it's not required, it must explain what is there in its place. Cannot leave it like that. So I suspect it is silent. That's why I commend the department, therefore, for saying there's a process of agreement that is being put together. But that law should be reread so that we can be referred to the section. I repeat, I cannot imagine it saying it's not required. Cannot imagine it saying that. A lot of other issues, which I think are the reason why we should go to some kind of investigation, is that, if you remember, the committee said in the last meeting to the board, supposed board, that in your non-cooperating state, the CEO is the one who is supposed to be dealing with the issues of what to call of the entity. The committee said that, clear, and the committee was very clear about that. Said in a non-cooperating situation, the CEO must run with the entity. Now, you are not cooperating, and at the same time, you obstruct the CEO from doing his work. So I'm saying the committee did state that. You can understand that. Those are some of the issues that will force us to do a lot of things. The DM has articulated a lot of investigation with these results, which have not. A number of these issues explain why some kind of investigation, so that the committee can express informed views after a process which helps to establish facts around the things that have been raised. All I'm saying, Chair, I support, therefore, what you say and what Honorable Kalago said about urgently the committee needs to sit to deal with blatant irregularities that are articulated here and establish facts. I repeat, I don't want to deal with gossips. I don't think the portfolio committee must deal with gossips. Once things are raised, you know what, no matter how 100, I'm happy I'm not getting a single letter from the departments. Because any letter that comes to me, I will bring it to you so that a process is followed. Unless the person says, I'm anonymous, I'm scared, that could be a different issue. Because the problem of dealing with gossip is that they will never put you anywhere. So I want to close then by saying the ministry, the political seniority of the department must accept that a dereliction on their side should be accepted. They must actually take a share in this 33. Maybe let me not use the word dereliction. They must accept the share of the blame in this 33%. Because they must not send an impression that if the situation keeps on occurring unplanned, they will sit back and say, because the board is not correcting, because the whatever is not correcting, understand why the work is not being done. They are executive authority to ensure that things are in motion. Siabo.
Honorable Talasha.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I agree with what other speakers have just alluded to, that I'm also happy that the ministry is committed to bring a report to us so that we can deal with all other issues and we can be able to conclude on the issues that sometimes you aren't very sure of. But also, Chair, the ministry must come back with the same understanding insofar as the board that is cooperating. There should be one message, coherent, from the ministry. When did the board started not to cooperate? It cannot be okay, Chair, that we get different explanations insofar as the cooperating board, because if you want to further investigate, that's where the crux of the matter is. When the decisions are being taken with the board that is not cooperating, but the minister says, in fact, it was cooperating, or some of the decisions were taken when the board was still curating. We would really want to hear a very coherent report there. What is this that we're dealing with insofar as the board curating or not? Chairperson, for that reason, I really don't want to deal with everything else, because for me, that report will be able to make us to further investigate whatever process that we'll put in place and conclude, Chairperson. I don't even want us to say, no, we'll not dissolve. You can't justify, you can't say that without getting to a full swing of some kind of investigation. You can't conclude before you get the necessary information. We wouldn't want to get in and be seen as the committee that is calling for dissolution every time. But we need as the committee to find time to get the facts so that we can be able to conclude independently of anything else. I'm happy that I really would want to see, I know Minister she has taken over some of the problems, but I would want to see the ministry really getting hands-on, dirty their hands into these entities in particular. Because whatever kind of work and progress that they are making in the department, it will always be really frustrated by the entities. That is my now observation as I came into this committee. I get to realize that whilst the DOC is trying its best to make sure that it does everything the right way, but the institutions that are really dependent on them are bringing this negativity towards to the DOC. I would really want to see the minister, without getting there because there's crisis, but to get there and find out exactly what is this that I'm dealing with, what I have taken over, what challenges do we have, how best can we resolve these challenges without getting this investigation after investigation, because it denies the committee to really exercise the normal oversight, because you are forced to do all this that should be done in a very short space of time and so on. With all that, I would love to call upon the minister to please read the report, our oversight report, because that report made us to really wanting to conclude to say there's everything wrong about MDDA, where we suspected that a lot of money was just dumped with individuals with no accountability processes or systems. So I would really want the ministry to look at that report so that when they bring this conclusive report to us, they would have had a total picture of what is going on. But Chairperson, the ministry is able, and the law does allow them, to put a stop to what is happening now. It can't be that, Chairperson, we read about MDDA and listen from all radio stations about the MDDA. That is not so good, but very negative. It must come to a stop, regardless of the laws that governs who. I mean, there can't be this kind of a situation where everybody is a leader. It cannot be right. There should be, stop here now.
If I can interpret, you draw the line.
The damage that is being done to this institution that has been so brilliantly put in place, it's going to be a long time for you, Minister, and the department to be able to correct that. It's very, very, very bad. Some people did not know MDDA, but now they know, but for negative reasons, unfortunately. This thing of the staff writing to individuals and bring those to the committee, I don't think Chairperson is correct. I think things and correspondence should be followed, and there are procedures here. Because it's really, I can't imagine minister seated there and the deputy and listen to what we heard, expect them to respond from what we heard without a proper channel. That's gossip. And you can't expect the leadership of the department in the country to really address itself to gossip. So let there be proper processes. Parliament does have all those questions to the parliament, to the minister, and so on. But if you can't do that, please don't bring those to the committee, because we're wasting our time, and you make us to be away from the actual facts that we must deal with, instead to be really put into a situation where we must deal with gossip. This is not acceptable, Chairperson. It must stop, especially in the committee. But I really want to say to the minister, I heard her, let's allow her to come back with that report, but there should be leadership in the MDDA like now, or like yesterday. It can't be this, that everybody is important. It can't be right, Chairperson. About what we had in the last week, in the last meeting, as ministry is going to bring us a report, let there be a report about what is minister doing about only the incident of the last meeting. Because it was a public meeting, we had to, as the portfolio committee, push everything back to say, no, we don't accept this report, and so on. But time was put into that report, resources were put into that report, the public was informed about that report. As Honorable Mondli is saying, we can't say, no, there's no such a thing. There is, and something must be done about it. Thank you very much, Chair.
I'll give it to Honorable Matshoba. I see Honorable Van Dijk, you want to come back? You want to
Chair,
respond
yes,
to,
I want to respond.
do we really need to do that? Honorable Matshoba?
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the report from both our Minister and Deputy Minister. Though there's a crossing road in the report. But mine, Chair, as a committee, I think agent intervention needed to rescue the entity as soon as possible. I'm worried, Chair, I still have a concern. In the meeting we had last time, whereby the acting CEO was reporting to us, I'm still in a deep shock, even when I add the report of today. Chair, I want intervention should be the interest of the Parliament, not for a scoring of the individual. Sometimes honesty is the best policy. I want to repeat it again. The honesty is the best policy to all of us to take a collective decisive in this issue of MDDA. You know, Deputy Minister, I have many questions, but I don't want to delay the meeting according to this MDDA, because I'm asking myself, where's the previous ministers and the deputy ministers before you entered that department? Because it means this problem was due long time ago. Maybe we will correct Chair, let us have another meeting to apply our minds to this report. As much as even the minister will take as our colleagues raising valid issues in terms of the minister must look in that report. Also, I will appeal to you, Minister and Deputy Minister, to work together in terms of, even if you are dealing with these entities, to go and report to the minister and sit down to come with one report to us, so that we cannot be confused. Come together, go back to the minister, rectify those mistakes. I know these mistakes that doesn't did by you and whoever. You don't know what's happening there. But I can say, Chair, thank you very much, because we don't want our entities to go down to the drain. Because sometimes other things we don't know. This report come to us today. So we will apply our minds. But I'm just asking myself, where was the previous ministers to allow the three boards to take a decision whereby they are not correcting to take a decision? Thanks, Chair. I won't go further, but I do have many questions, but I don't want to delay the meeting.
All right, thank you very much. Honorable Van Dijk.
Chair, I do want to respond on my colleague. I just want with regards to the letters. The letters that I received, I forwarded that to the previous chair. I forwarded to the previous minister, who said that she will investigate. And you can also, I also forwarded all the emails that I received to you. I also forwarded to some of my ANC colleagues the last email I received this morning. So everything and also with all those emails that I received, I specifically asked that Parliament inquiry must be done into the MDDA. And also with what we hear today, I want to just mention that I do agree with Honourable Kunkubela. Sorry. Yeah.
The easy one is Mondli.
Kunkubela. Yeah.
Honorable Van Dijk, the easy one is Mondli.
Yeah, the easy one. Thank you, Chair.
Mondli, yes.
Thank you for that one. I just want to mention that I agree with him. The chairperson of the board and the CEO are touching points with the shareholder. So the minister knew since 2014 that we have problems with the CEO with that position, and it hasn't been acted upon. So I definitely today, taking in consideration what the Deputy Minister says, that the problem won't be solved by appointing new people, I do want to request from our side that we do a Parliament inquiry into this, to the MDDA. If that's fine. Thank you, Chair.
I don't think we must go beyond this point. I will allow Deputy Minister if you have something to say, and then Minister after that, and then after that, Honorable Kalako, if you want to round up something, and then I'll summarize and close the meeting.
No, Chair, there's nothing much to say, other than to appreciate the responses and comments from the honorable members. Also, I want to concur with the Honorable Kalako on the irregular contracts and so on, as I raised earlier on. What I also want to bring to the attention of the committee is that there's current litigations at MDDA on the issue of the contracts. The one board member is the chairperson of the ICT bid adjudication committee at MDDA. They awarded a contract or SLA, which is the service level agreement, to a company called Brand Connections, and that was signed and processed. And then the chair reversed that decision to say, by the way, the SLA must be issued to sound confusion. These are companies that are installing different equipments to different community radio stations, apparently. So this one, Brand Connections, has taken the entity to court, chairperson, and there is those litigations. And they also put the chairperson as the person that should be sued on this particular litigation. It's there. I've got the evidence of all this in my file. So I'm trying to say that problems at MDDA, it won't take an event to resolve them, but a process. And that process, the committee can embark on and try and meet us halfway in terms of resolving the issues of MDDA. Yes, indeed, Honorable Machoba, our predecessors tried to intervene on the issue of the MDDA, as I alluded earlier, to say that there's an investigation report and the outcome and findings which is dated 20 November 2015. That report is there, but there was no implementation of the findings of the report. So ourselves, as the current incumbents in the ministry, have inherited a ministry that has its own challenges and unresolved issues. That's why we are here today talking about the MDDA and its challenges, because these challenges of the MDDA did not emanate yesterday. They've been there long before we were appointed ourselves. But we are trying to ensure that all these things are resolved. Thank you very much, Chairperson, Comrade Honorable Gungubele. I don't know whether I would want to take a fair share of the 33% myself where I'm seated. So I need to go back and dissect what you have raised on the 33%, because where I'm seated, I can justify the 33%. Because remember, we're all seated here when you were receiving a report from a board which was illegitimate even then. And I had brought that to the attention of the committee. And here we are today, getting a different report. So that alone leaves so much to be desired. So justifiably so, I won't take a fair share of the 33%. On the question on the governance level agreement, the board charter in place governs the conduct of the board in addition to the PFMA, Comrade Monley. Now, the committee must consider whether it will activate Section 6, number 2 of the MDDA Act as part of the intervention moving forward on the issues of the MDDA, which we've raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much. Honorable Gungubele, I'm not sure if the issue that you raised was real or rhetorical on taking fair share of the blame. But you see, I am the executing or the executive authority. I can't run away from responsibility. Whether I feel it is fair to take that responsibility or not, by law, I'm the executive authority, so the buck ultimately stops with me. So in that light, and in taking into account the problems as enunciated here, some of them I'm hearing them for the first time, by the way, I will endeavor to ensure, working with the portfolio committee, that everything that emanates from these discussions, some of them new to me, and some of them are things that I am aware of. It is only when we work together that we can find solutions to issues and not work in silos. And you also have a responsibility of holding all of us to account on the APP's implementation, but also on the money that is designated to the department and ultimately allocated to the various entities. And if we read all of that which has been said today in the context of that section of the PFMA that the Deputy Minister alluded to, and also the Cabinet Memorandum on Delegation of Authority, we will understand that there truly was a dereliction of duty at the MDDA, both by the current acting CEO and also the incorrect board as it stands. Because it was only when I went to resolve the issue of locking out the CEO that I truly became aware that there are these type of problems, over and above what had been presented to me in April by the Deputy Minister. But between April and then, I can plead ignorance, but I have to take responsibility and account on that ignorance even. We sat with the with the Chief Executive Officer, the acting, where he considered that on the things that I had given him, he had not done anything insofar as that is concerned. And now that speaks directly to the issue of the PFMA, the accountability of the CEO. And taking from what the DM is saying, let's take the board aside and say the board is illegitimate, if we are to go by that narrative. Let's take it that it's illegitimate, but the CEO has a responsibility as appointed by the executing authority or the executive authority. And performance has been dismal. Fact must be placed before the portfolio committee. Dealing with the current members of the board is one thing, and I would want us to do that. Because it has been their responsibility since inception to implement on the objectives as set out, both by the Deputy Minister in the document that she quotes, but also in the documents that I too quote, which are the PFMA, the Treasury and DPSA governance document as presented to Cabinet and adopted by Cabinet. So all of those people, including me, have a direct responsibility. And this is why I have to be on top of issues, because at the end of the day, I am the one that is going to have to come here and account on dismal performance of whatever entity that I exercise executive authority over. Now, whether a decision will be taken to dissolve or not dissolve is really besides the point. Fact of the matter is that right now things need to be put in place. And I have said that these are the measures, the interim measures that I'm going to put in place to try and arrest the decline. And I will personally make it my business that as reports are sent to the Deputy Minister, I also get a copy, so that I can be on top of things in that entity, to ensure that where there are gaps, I'm able to provide the executive intervention that is expected of me as the minister, ultimately accountable on these matters. I know that there was a report, Honorable Tolashe, I have seen that report. That report was brought to my attention by members of, even before the report was done. Issues there were brought to my attention by members of this very portfolio committee. And I immediately asked the department to start a process of looking into those things. Responses were given to me, wishing away some of the issues that were raised ultimately in your report. And maybe part of my report should then include what it is that we have sought to do to address those issues as raised by you. Now, I'm not sure whether the written report you would still expect that we come back to actually table that written report, or you will go through it, because I feel that I would need to give possible recommendations on how to deal with these issues. Because I don't want to move from this meeting with an impression created that I am fine with the decline in MDDA. The decline and the dismal performance of the MDDA ultimately makes Ayanda Dlodlo, the minister, look bad. I can't be happy with that. Hence, I'm saying that all reports sent to the Deputy Minister, I would have to get a copy so that I'm on top of issues as well, and I'm able to work on things as per my responsibilities, delegated in terms of the Constitution and also in terms of the PFMA and the Cabinet memo on delegations of authority. So I make an undertaking here that when next I come back here, I will be able to provide possible recommendations from the side of the ministry, having conferred with the Deputy Minister on those recommendations, because I have delegated that function to her of overseeing the MDDA, but the ultimate accountability rests with me, ultimately. So I undertake that that will be done. And as I had said, I did indicate that once we have finalized the process of appointing the Corate board, I will have to take a decision on who will chair that board and also advise the president on that matter as to who should chair. But as things are now, we've had these problems, as you say, Honorable Van Dijk, from 2014. We can't have problems lingering on for that long and certain people being at the helm of these problems. Whether they're to blame or not, but the decline happens in their lifetime. And as such, if they're unable over a 4 or 3 year period to deal with those problems, then it means they are not a suitable match for the positions that they hold. It's as simple as that. Thank you very much.
Honorable Kalako, do you want to say something? Are you fine? Yes, thank you very much, members and the ministry. Now, what we're going to do as a way forward, the minister will give us the report that she said will be ready by the 19th. We'll also expect the 2015 report, investigation report. Also, as to what you, Minister, will do in relation to the last meeting incident that Honorable Tolasha raised. The board and the acting CEO reporting to the committee differently. That kind of misconduct, because it's a misconduct. So we must get this report immediately after the 19th, so that by the 6th, when we meet of October, we have those reports. Whatever we are going to do as a way forward in terms of the, whether it's the board or MDDA, will be informed by such reports. That is why when I was intervening earlier, there is nothing to pronounce in terms of what other people are saying around the dissolution and the inquiry, all those things. We're not pronouncing that at all at this juncture. Whoever in media, whoever is reporting must ensure that you will expect the decision of the committee after the 6th as to what we do with MDDA. You remember the SABC story about inquiry and all of that. We cannot, before we interact with the report, informed by the report, we cannot take a decision as to what we are going to do. But certainly, as the committee, we cannot leave the situation as it is in MDDA. We must dirty our hands on that. And when again, kutiwa izono zoyisesibuzwa konyana, whether it's problems of 2014 or 2015, you are responsible. It's a culture kakuhleke isiXhosa. You take responsibility. We take responsibility too as this committee on what Comrade Joyce was doing and other members were here before us. We take responsibility for that. So So that's the way forward, members. That okay.
Which Honorable Tolasha spoke about. the truly last co-raiding board meeting, because there's been discrepancy.
Yeah, all that will have to be part of the package that the minister will give us. There are so many other things related to all this. So all that we'll expect immediately after the 19th minister, so that we can, prepare ourselves for the meeting of the 6th. And remember, members, meeting of the 6th is on a Friday. It's a Friday meeting, so we'll have to deliberate so that you don't talk about your flights. The last flight that we must talk about is 5 o'clock, so we can continue until we deal with things properly. Maybe it's in order to say thank you very much, Minister and Deputy Minister, for the report and the commitment in dealing with the situation in MDDA, but also taking responsibility to problems of MDDA. And thanks, members, you were away. You had to come back for this meeting because the only day we had was Thursday. Thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned. Oh, I'm told, where is lunch? Lunch for members and there is a birthday boy here, the content advisor. Happy birthday, Malika.